Hi, everyone. This is Coach Corey Dodds with Action Coach, and I'm excited to have Charlie Walker with us today. He serves as the president and CEO of the Chippewa Economic Development Corporation and is also a principal with the Diligence Group. Charlie is a leader and innovator in the economic development industry. He's been in there for 20 plus years, and he frequently lectures and consults on strategic site location, planning, and organizational analytics for expanding firms. He also speaks and provides counsel on creating and implementing proactive global business development strategies and tactics, and also aids corporate clients in their site selection process. The primary mission of the Chippewa Economic Development Corporation is to be a catalyst for the economic development in the Chippewa Valley and to foster a strong economic environment through aiding entrepreneurial development and growth. The Diligence Group is an economic development consulting firm specializing in the economic development and site location consulting and collaboration of entrepreneurs, economic development organizations, governments, and companies across all industry segments. Something unique about Charlie, he is ambidextrous.
Yes.
Which hand are you going to write with today?
Today will be right-handed.
Okay, he's choosing right today.
Yes.
His favorite thing to do in his downtime is he's an admirer of those who are good storytellers. People that have a skill to go out of their way to create a narrative that speaks to the human experience. So he spends some time checking out museums, attending lectures, checking out storytelling mediums to hone his skills as a storyteller. Something he's most proud of, his wife, Donna.
Yep.
Why? For not moving on and sticking with him.
That's right.
So she's stuck putting up with a workaholic, an overachiever, and quite frankly, as he admits, once a difficult person. So she continues to keep him on the straight and narrow, straighten him up, helps him be a better person, which makes him very proud of her, and he wishes he has her wisdom. With that, everyone, it's my pleasure to welcome Charlie Walker to the show today. Hello, Charlie.
Hey, it is great to be here, Corey. It's just fantastic, a wonderful day, and life's grand, and it's just amazing the things we're working on in the summer.
Yeah, I know it's already the middle of summer here in Wisconsin, so man, time goes too fast. All right, so let's jump in. I'm going to ask you some questions. Let's have some fun with it.
Let's have a conversation.
First question: your personal story. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Where were you born? Where did it all start? How did you end up in the Chippewa Valley today?
Wow. As you can tell from the accent, I'm from the South. I was born in a small town, the closest, San Angelo, Texas, in the middle of West Texas. Went to school. My dad was basically a military guy, so we went with him from San Angelo to Fort Ord to Fort Bliss to Germany to Fort Sam Houston to Goodfellow. And then he retired. And as growing up in a military family, you can imagine you have to be aware of your surroundings and always work and make sure the first thing you do when you wake up is make the bed and make sure everything's tidy, and very disciplinary type of father. And so with that discipline, when he was gone, you have to learn to have fun and not be so serious. You put on your serious face, and then when he's gone, it's like, okay, we can act up. So that's basically in West Texas. Went to school, Angelo State, master's, University of Texas, and then I got into economic development by a freak accident. Actually, I was starting my own business, and I built it, and I sold it, and I started another one, and I needed help. And I didn't know where to go to help. And I really didn't know I needed help. And so I ended up going to the incubator and the small business development, and they really helped me. And I kind of liked how they were doing it. So I always stayed in touch. And so that's kind of how I got the entrepreneur bug young, failed quite a few things, started an information research retrieval company, sold that. Did some other things, started in real estate, didn't do well there. Just the housing crisis. And so I just kept picking myself up. And the more economic developers and coaches and mentors that I surrounded myself on, the better I was doing. And I liked that. And I said, hey, I can do that. So
wow. Did a lot of that take place in Texas?
It was Texas, New Mexico, California is where I started.
Wow. Okay.
It's just bouncing around, and I had some great mentors that got me into economic development. We call it at that time site selection and finding the right location. And my dad, when he retired from the military, he had a research company for he was into data analytics and self service, and all that's come back full circle. How we can pull data from cell phones and pings on towers and gather the data. It was just a fascinating world, and I enjoyed it, and helping entrepreneurs and learning and growing and having them help me and I help them and giving back. So that's kind of how I got started. I
So,
ended up in Wisconsin because it's a barbecue story. I was literally having barbecue in Waco, Texas, and there was a gentleman in front of me that had this funny accent. And I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "Wisconsin." And I go, "Oh, well, what?" And we started talking about we talked about the Packers and we talked about the Cowboys, and he goes, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm in economic development and doing some consulting, and in this world, a lot of nonprofits can't afford to pay at a top,
mhm.
but they need the expertise. So they say, hey, you work these many hours a month, and then you can do your consulting. And some of it we manage some of the organizations. So it just depends on how that goes." And he goes, "Well, I'm a headhunter, and I'm looking. I got a client in Wisconsin in economic development. If you're interested, you know where Chippewa Falls is." And of course, everyone knows Chippewa Falls is the founder of the supercomputer and Seymour Cray. And I'm thinking in Austin, you got Round Rock and Dell computers, and I'm thinking Eau Claire, it's a suburb of Eau Claire, and that's what I'm thinking. Oh yeah, it's beautiful. The rest is history. So came up here, interviewed. I really liked what the folks and what we're trying to do here, and there it is. Made a decision. And as you know, I in my intro, uh, I had just gone through a bloody divorce, and I said I'm never going to get married again, and never use the word never, because sure enough, that comes back to bite you. But what I was through that divorce situation, I needed a whole new change. I work at that time, literally 14, 16-hour days, work, not a good husband when you do that. And so I said I was never going to get married. I was just going to dive into my career and blah, blah, blah. And I met a Wisconsin woman, and there she is. She's able to put up with me, got me to balance that work-life balance that I never really realized I needed, but I did need it. And so that covers some of your introductory points you were saying. So that's a little bit about me. Hobbies, I love storytelling, like you point. I like to go to museums and look at the artwork and say, man, I wonder what he's trying to say. And then I go into lectures, and have you ever gone to church and just, well, man, I wish I could speak like that,
Oh
or
yeah.
or that point. That's kind of, how can I do that better? So that's that whole story fascination that I have. I started reading historical markers, and then just seeing the story of it and seeing how could I describe it. And it's just a skill, kind of a hobby. I like to walk in to museums and just watch, and then they'll be giving a lecture and I'll listen, and podcast I'll listen. So your podcast is excellent. Success Chronicles, it's
Mhm.
great, and you tell a good story.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. So, what a journey. And how long have you been up in Eau Claire now? Or
Coming on
Chippewa?
16 years. Who's counting?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you did not interview in the wintertime?
Uh, that's again, I did a stint. I did some work in Alaska, so I really knew it wasn't going to be as cold. But after the first year, you get to it. The neat thing about this state is it has four seasons, and it's beautiful all four seasons. Right now in some places it's 118, 6 months out of the
Yeah.
year, right?
Yeah. I
No,
lived in Atlanta, Georgia for about 5.5 years. So yeah, I kind of melted down there.
yeah, just sticky and melty. No, I'll take up here any day.
All right. Okay. Next question. Jump to leadership. What is, how would you describe your leadership style?
Wow, that's a good question. Probably a situational leadership style. Because it used to be laissez-faire, just you hire the right people, you hire the right team, and let them do their job. As times are changing, I'm becoming more situational. I'm going to have to be real adaptive. I'm going to have to know what type of personalities I'm going into, especially with clients, and adjust my leadership style to that organization that I'm working with, to that client I'm working with. So it's definitely situational. It's a skill. where you're going to have to learn. If I have to become very anal and give the PowerPoint and the timelines and timeframes and hold accountability, then I transform into that. If I've got a really good leadership team and management team, I can let them do what they need to do. So sometimes I've got my clients are give me a task with some employees that really need boostering, and so become a subservient, a servant type leadership. So I think situational. I think a good leader is able to navigate some of their top three leadership skills and morph into what's needed at that time to get that job done.
Wow. So did we just coin a new phrase, call it chameleon leadership?
That's even a better one. I was thinking of that Deep Space Nine, Quark or Orc or whatever he is that changes shape
Oh,
shifting, and
yeah,
I was
that's right.
thinking of shape shifting leadership. But I like your chameleon deal. You do need to flex and change, and especially in who your customers are and what management team you're working with those customers.
Mhm. All right. Now you've got two different roles, well, more than two, but your
Mhm.
two main ones in your career is going to be working with the economic development group in Chippewa and the Diligence group.
Right.
So tell us more about each of those.
Well,
You
the
can pick.
Diligent Group started 20 years ago from my mentoring, Bob 80, and my dad said, "Hey, I've got a client, and you're in California. You're in California. Can you do some analysis? We don't want to come all the way out there and do it." And that's how it started. So it's basically a third. We call it the third eye review of your site selection. So I'm working with a client right now that is out of Dallas, and he's got a whole list of things that he wants to review, and I'm going through it with him and just not coaching him, but giving a third eye on what
Yep.
to expect in the process and what things, red flags to look for, so that he can gather the information that he needs and not waste a lot of time gathering meaningless data. A lot of things, sometimes it's a lot of spreadsheet work. Sometimes it's just I'll get a phone call and say, "Hey, how many can I get 4 hours to go visit a community and check this out, verify certain things?" So when we do in the economic or the relocation game of a business, I'll come in and I'll give an analysis of that community. 99% of the time, they don't even know I'm there. I travel the town at night, look at the crime, look at the feel of the community, look at the architecture, and give a 3-page report of what I think a manage, especially when management's going to be moving core people. Check out the school district, give them a little report of what I hear normatively, what I think, and then you have your empirical data, and it's the discussion today is what's more important, qualitative or quantitative, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of both. You get boots on the ground and you find out, you talk to folks, and that information in the old days used to be, oh, that's just a bunch of gobbledygook, but today it's very important, and we can learn more about that by talking and listening to their stories and just really grasping the key points of what they're telling you.
Well, having spent all that time in your industry, I mean, COVID was a disruptor to say the least, but now how are things changed with site selection with regards to like, the hybrid and working from home and
Well, that's a good thing. In certain deals, artificial intelligence is taking a lot. So when we look at where we're going to find the next location and where we're going to get the labor, a lot of the analytics behind that is driven. Artificial intelligence is pulling a lot of the information. Where people are going, it always depends on what industry I'm working. Manufacturing, you're going to make widgets, right? You can't
Mhm.
bring the machine
Yeah,
into the garage.
right.
So depending upon what industry it is, they each have different variables that's driving them. The place is so important. Where are the next industrial parks? Where's the power going to be for these projects? Because there's just not available. And to get it available is a year, sometimes 2 years down the road, where the market's going to be there. So you've got just the site analytics, but then when you add what you were talking about, the labor, what kind of labor can we get? What type of jobs can be commuted? It all starts with that internal conversation with the client. It's really pulling up what that internal team wants to accomplish. And each of those team members have a passion. Interviewing, like your HR. what are they going to talk about? They're going to talk about how I can fill the spots. Your production manager is going to talk about efficiency and what the quality of the employees are. So each person in that internal team brings a bias that you have to kind of sort through. And then at the end of the day, it's the board of directors and the management is about the performance and can it make a profit and when will it make a profit and what are the risks and how do you mitigate those risks and so those all go into a bunch of analysis, but I'm just one small layer in that analysis. I'm kind of like that one spreadsheet in the workbook that somebody had to put together, right?
Mhm.
So,
All right, great. That's fascinating, and
mhm.
just the economy and how that ebbs and flows, and there's so many dynamics that, someone like you, obviously their experience is super helpful.
Right.
Um,
And from an your question, second part, that's the diligent group side. And because I know that, then my expertise for these organizations is, can you help us? Can you help can I provide some of that knowledge in helping some of these entrepreneurs go out from their garage to their physical location? And so that's how the organization from the corporation side works on the Chippewa economic development is how can I manage that? I know enough, and then ethically we know where the boundaries are and where they're not. But because I have the skill set in the field, it makes me do my job for the corporation a lot easier, a lot more efficient, and I like to say even better than the competitors. So,
okay. So you mentioned that you started and failed and started and sold several businesses, it sounds like, throughout on your journey.
oh, absolutely.
When did you realize that, you know what, you could do this on your own? You got this. I can do this from a business ownership, leadership perspective.
I don't think I ever realized that. I really don't. I think as an entrepreneur, I always had that stomach ulcer where you're
Mhm.
working literally all the time and it's a fear. For me, it was a fear of failure
Mhm.
that man, I've just got to keep going. And of course, from that fear of failure, because I wasn't wise enough at the time to really know what I didn't know, I thought I could do it all. Sound like an entrepreneur,
Oh yeah.
right? I'm not going to
Hmm.
let go. I can do it all. I can do it all. Oh, I can listen to you. You're giving me great advice. Yeah, whatever. I can do it all. And it's at that point, it's the fear when I realized I can't do it all, that I need help, that I realized that I would be a better entrepreneur. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's
It
total sense, but it
uh,
takes it takes something to get to that point, because I still
well,
talk with plenty of people, know plenty of people as you do, that try and do it all, right?
yeah,
And they become the lids.
and the turning point that I knew I needed help was in the divorce, right? And
Mhm.
and it was like, well, I married you for your potential, right? That
Yeah.
that statement was like, wow, I was failing here.
Yeah.
And I wasn't meeting those expectations. So at that point, I realized I need to get help. I can do this with the right team. See, it was all me. I could do this. I could manage this. I could control this and I control that. And the sales aspect of that, I could tell my salesman this is how you do it because I've done it. And no, it was about through that process of getting a divorce, having a personal life that was totally screwed up. With the business success, I sold it. I sold the business, made some money, but then realized I didn't have it. I had a tax bill,
Mhm.
right? I wasn't. I was just going to deal with it as it happened. I was successful, got the business, got the opportunity to sell it, boom. But wait, I had a tax bill. You're right. Capital gains. Ooh, you never thought of that. So those are the kind of things that hey, I'm not doing well here. Obviously, I am doing it, going through the motions, but I'm not doing well, and something's not right. And so that was what got me that I would say through that whole divorce situation of changing on the personal life, knowing that that's where I could use help, build a better team, get a work balance, get the money wasn't the issue. It was what was destroying me as a person, and that wasn't the kind of person that I wanted to be. So I guess that's your answer.
Wow, that's yeah. Thanks for sharing. I mean,
Hmm.
just I love hearing people's journeys and hearing how they got to where we are today, right? All of us, for
Yeah.
that matter.
Yeah, when you get to
Huh.
a point where I always say, if it's not fun, we're not going to do it.
Mhm.
Well, you didn't even know what fun was because you were doing it all the time. You think it's fun, you had this idea, but then you
Oh,
look around and go, wow, this this isn't worth it. This whole thing, this isn't what I thought I wanted to. And so then you have a epiphany, and unfortunately an explosion of your personal life, and all at the same time, where financially things are okay, but on the personal side,
at
then
what cost?
at
Yeah.
what cost? Exactly. So that was the
So
tipping point where I said, you know what, I'm gonna take with a diligent group. We're very selective in the clients. Um, I'm able to say no.
that's
See,
powerful.
that's before you'd call me and say, Charlie, can you do this? Absolutely. No problem.
You bet. Yeah.
Right.
When can we start?
Right. And I'd jump into it, and I'd miss my son's football game
Yeah.
because I was whipping that out. Right. And yeah, now I'm able to balance the work and keep it to what, I work 3 clients, 4 clients a year, and some of it takes 6 months, some of it takes a year. It's selective on the clients I want to do. It generates the revenue that I need. On the corporation side, we're growing. We're having fun. We're accomplishing our metrics. Uh, so those things are going real good. But see, I couldn't get there without a good team, without
Yeah.
a good group of people who I finally realized, just that's kind of my management. Now I couldn't tell you what some of the projects I don't want to know. I trust you. They're going where we need to go.
That's great. And you mentioned the tipping point, several of them, the way it sounds. But for me, I was
Mhm.
20 years in corporate America, traveled a lot,
Yep.
U.S. travel, but I was gone a lot. And I have a wife and 4 kids.
Right.
But yeah, I was making good money, but I was at home. And it took missing my son's first and only home run in baseball for me to say, you know what? I got to find something else. This is not worth
Right.
the price, right? So that
Hmm.
was my tipping point.
Yep.
Okay, so on the heels of that, my lovely mother once said, hindsight is 50-50. Right? Not
Yeah.
20-20, 50-50. So if you could go back and rewind, what would you do differently or change?
I would have never sold my first business.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because it was an emotional, it was to try to balance, like I was telling you, I was having some explosions on the personal life, and I would have not done that.
Wow.
I would have slowed down. I would have gotten advice. I would have really looked at the true evaluation of the business, because what I at the time that I thought I was getting a nice paycheck, when I reflect on it now, from what I learned, you make your money on the buy, and
Yes.
they made some good money. you know,
Okay.
taking it where they took it, and took the
Yeah.
business, and moved forward on it. It was awesome. I could, I guess I should have slowed down and done that. And that was, if you could have done something, would you? It's just emotional decision without a lot of forethought, because the check, the money looked good. It sounded good. That's what you thought would get you out of this emotional, make your family life better. So we'll do it. Yeah, not realizing that's not how you should make business decisions.
Okay. There's a lot of myths out there about being a business owner, president, CEO. Any myths that you would like to dispel what people
That I
think?
know everything in the organization,
Ah,
that I know what's
right.
going on, that I'm on top of it. Because as you know, there's a lot of things that I don't even see that happen, and I take it for granted. And I know that it happens, and sometimes I take it for granted. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of team members, my employees, they're doing what they need to do, and I don't know all the things they do, but I know they're doing it, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
as a CEO and a president, there's a lot of things I don't know, that people think I know. How did that happen? Well, actually, the only answer is I had a great team person.
Mhm.
Brittany did a heck of a job and hit it home, and boom. And how she did it, I don't know, because she just took the ball and ran. So, could you tell how you did it? No, I really can't.
Well, that's just a credit to you and the team that you have, right? So
Yeah,
that's,
and that's part of what I was saying about that management. It takes you years to find that too, to do that. But that's where you'd be surprised how many people will say, "Wow, and some of that analysis." Because I have friends too, because I'll outsource some stuff, and some of the analysis will come back really crackerjack, and they'll.
um,
Of course, as a business owner, you take credit for it, and then they're, "Well, how'd you do that?" Well, to be honest, my team did it. I really never looked at it at that angle.
mhm.
So,
Okay. Next question. What is something new that you want to learn outside of your work?
oh, wow.
Oh, you
You
said
know,
storytelling, but is there something else?
no, we're talking just a skill. I am just
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick up Spanish.
Oh,
I said I was gonna see because I like to travel, but you mainly in Europe. I just want to really master Spanish, and it's like my brain. I'm just gonna have to put more effort into that. But that's my goal. I'm gonna try to master Spanish.
cool. All right. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, isn't that funny? It's I just want to be able to master that language.
And then you can tell stories in Spanish.
That's what I want to be able to do is be that good, not a
Yeah.
tourist, I want to be,
Right.
and I understand that I probably should have picked that up when I was little and kept it.
Yeah.
Mm,
Right.
But
Well, yeah, growing up in
that's my actually my I would say middle range goal is in the next year I want to have enough Spanish in me to really, you know, be doing
fit
it.
in with the
So
locals.
yeah.
All right. Um, Next question. What's the next big thing for you and your business?
Well, on the Diligent Group side, we're really looking at well, I always call it the travel agency side. And so I'm learning, I'm actually the way of the travel agent. You don't hear a lot of that, right? Remember when you have to call book your travel agent. So
Right.
I'm trying to get ahead of the site selection game and really looking into what type of interface and software and data analytics could be used for the common business person. And a lot of people go, oh, I need to get consultants, and it swings back and forth. Amazon and the big meta companies, they have their folks inside their company on their payroll, and then there are those that companies that can afford to pay a consultant, and that's always good to get a deal. But you're still going to have these entrepreneurs that want to dabble into this, and I want to try to come up with an interface that helps those entrepreneurs. The coffee shops, the one that what I'm talking about. He wants to do a
Hmm.
second location, and he thinks he knows, but he wants some verification on it. I want to kind of do a self-analysis type tool for business location in that. So I'm working and playing and trying to figure out how that's going to be most usable for that. Just kind of tinkering on that. So I think that's the next best deal on the Diligent Group. On the corporate side of Chippewa Economic Development, we're really moving forward in workforce and trying to break the mold of we spent the last 5 years working manufacturing. As you know, manufacturing is the key, and for so many years people thought parents particular manufacturing is dirty, dangerous, dumb. You don't want to go there. You want to go into account and go into accounting, lawyers and such, but we're seeing the tipping point on that. We're with a high cost of schooling, student debt. We're seeing a lot more movement into manufacturing, and it's becoming really cool, and the technologies behind manufacturing. So we're really seeing our movement to get that next talent pipeline going, because it goes right back to those companies. I was in a meeting, and there was a company that's got 30% of their workforce is going to retire. That's
Wow. 30%.
30% of their workforce is going to retire, or could retire today. Now, not all of them are going to do it, but think about
Hmm.
that. That's a huge number. And today they were saying, what was it? How many birthdays today for the baby boomers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
right, it's a numbers game. So I'm really excited about where Chippewa Economic Development Corporation is going into finding its new talent product, and then looking for we'll work on the next industrial park, trying to find that next area that has the right power, the right assets and infrastructure that's needed for these growing companies, and what's that going to be like in the future. So we're laying those on top of what we would call the talent pool and the infrastructure pool, and putting them together and see what we can come up with. So that's where we're going to be working on the next 3 years of our deal, because we have a long range plan, a short range plan, and then we do try to do what we can get through in the week, right?
Right. Well, the power of planning.
That's correct.
If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right?
That is for sure.
All right. So last question. What advice do you have for business owners who are trying to do it all on their own like you once did?
You know, it takes more strength and more wisdom to ask for help. That's my advice. Is first you thought it's a pride thing, right? Well, get over the pride. We're talking about ching ching and money, and then we can make more money if we get more help. And I'm not talking about people who, you work in the business, on the business, but before we even do that, let's work on our ability to know we need help. We don't know it all. We need a connection of people around us that can support us when we're in a bad mood, give us some lessons on what to do and what not to do. Whether we take the advice or not is not what's important. It's the ability to have those skill sets to listen, to say, I think that's the most important advice, is to get to your point, to realize that there's no such thing as free. See, surround yourself, your advice is valuable, and be willing to pay for that. And so what would you pay to write a check to get that? Even if I'm not going to charge you for this, look at it as it's still valuable. So many entrepreneurs today go, oh, I'll just try to get this quote free advice or words of wisdom, and they go around and they soak it, because they haven't got to the point where, yes, I need it, so I'm willing to pay for it. It's valuable to me. So not only do you have to ask for help, but you have to know that it's valuable to it's a great investment to ask. So that's why I'm glad to be on your show, because you're coaching, you're helping, and so many businesses go, oh, I don't need it. Well, when they do realize they don't need it, then they don't realize it's the amount that they're having to pay for it is cheap. It really is.
It needs to be an investment. Looked at it that way.
That's
right?
what I was going to say. They look at it as they're going to receive a Coke or a hamburger. No, it's like a 401k. It's an investment down the future. So that would be my advice, is that when you're looking for help and you need it, get to that ask, but also know and have a total understanding that it's not going to be free. And sometimes I won't even charge, but sometimes I'll say it's going to come back. And when I say free, it might be I call you up and say, I need a favor.
Right. Yeah, 'cause everyone's ready to give free advice, right?
Correct.
Which then muddies the water.
That's correct. Exactly. And so I said, here's what I want from you. I'm going to be right up front. It's going to be this amount. But hey, if it's not, and I understand where you are, remember, I'm going to call you. And when I call you, I expect this IOU, if you will, to be good.
All right, that's great. How can someone connect with you?
Well, the easiest way is, of course, through email, and from just cwalker@chippewa-wi.com is the fastest, easiest way to do it. That's the best way. I don't do much of the website or the Facebook or the LinkedIn too. You can get me on LinkedIn, but what I'm seeing on my email is like yourself. I'm 60, 70 emails a day through social media. I'm out. I'm working, and then I come in, and that's where I have to. My wife stopped me. Make sure that you don't do things on family time, and so I'm really gotten that life balance. So I return all emails. cwalker@chippewa-wi.com. It might take a day or two, but I read every one of them, and if they're worth responding, meaning if you need a question, some of them just like to tell me something, and I don't respond, but I read every email. It does take some time, but I get back to you, and that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. cwalker@chippewa-wi.com. And I will answer your questions or see what I can do to help you, or even lead you to the a direction that if any of your listeners want to know anything about me, I'll be more than happy to talk.
All right, thanks. And one last thing is,
Yeah.
there's been plenty of people that have influenced you on your journey. Anybody you want to give some shout outs to before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, again, my dad, he passed during COVID. He was just a huge influencer. Bob Addy, he passed. I have a whole Bob Armstrong, a whole bunch of them. I always call them the old timers that have passed. There's a group of us that we would just have it, walk in and have a cup of coffee and just vent. And so I miss them, and they were of great influence. And of course, my wife keeps me grounded, so she's replaced half of them, and she's good. So thank you, Donna, for everything. Thank you, Corey. Thank your listeners. I hope I passed some words of wisdom, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Great job. It was a pleasure getting to know you, Charlie.
All right. Thank you. And let me know if I can, and I'll spread it out and promote it as well.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.